Woo, wasabi guys, coming back at you with another top 10 video. This is Void Mage Gamer here. Gonna do a top 10 of Esper cards in Commander. I know a lot of people love the Esper color combination. I do too. I think there's a lot of busted cards in Esper colors, not just between the actual Esper colored cards, but rather just in between the colors themselves in white, blue, and black. Pretty good control colors. You're also gonna see a lot of commander cards on here, like actual legendary creatures. You're going to see a lot of legendary creatures on this list just because as we go into three colors, there's more legendary creatures than really any other type of card in three colors, to be honest. Like, I think that's the general consensus here. There tends to be more legends and, legendary creatures in these colors. So let's just start off the list here. Number 10, Lady Evangela from Legends. You can pay 2, tapper, target creature deals no combat damage for that turn. And that's hilarious. Just a great pillow fort card, player in the Oloro strategies, or that's pretty much where she belongs, but I think it's just hilarious if you decide to make a commander deck based around her, just try to make it more of a pillow fort strategy. That's really interesting, and I think it's definitely something that I'm going to try to do. I try to take some good legends from the past, or maybe some interesting ones that aren't necessarily as powerful as ones today, and just build around them. While she's most certainly not one of the better legendaries in Esper colors, she's one of the ones that we have here. Understand the fact that this top 10 list isn't necessarily amazing cards, but more or less cards that I think are commander playable. And as you go up in this list here, you're going to see a lot better cards and a lot more playable cards in Commander. Number 9, Marie Berry, or however you say her name, I don't fucking know. You tap her to gain control of a target creature. She doesn't untap during your untap step, and whenever she leaves the field or she untaps, that creature is destroyed. So, very similar to Rubinia Soulsinger and Bant colors. However, she's only 3 mana, and Esper, she's pretty fun, and I think there's been commander decks, a ton of them made of her, just because they love that ability. I think she's alright. I think she's interesting. I don't know if I would necessarily build around her personally, but I think she's definitely an interesting commander there. Number 8, Sphinx of the Steel Wind. He's 8 mana, but guess what? Vigilance, First Strike, Lifelink, Protection from red, green. Just all these different keywords here, all on a creature that's also an artifact. So you have a ton of Esper artifact related decks, and you have a huge creature here that's definitely going to help you grind out games. And whenever you have something with like Vigilance and Lifelink, personally, that's my favorite keyword combination right there, because you have good blockers, and not only that, but you have something that's going to continuously help you get life each one of your combats, and just a very good all-around creature, and definitely belongs on this list here. Number 7, we have the other Sphinx in Esper colors here. We have Magister Sphinx. 7 mana here. When it enters the battlefield, target opponent's life total becomes 10. Now, this is definitely one of the cards that I would consider banning. I know I already did like a top 10 ban list of cards that should be considered for banning. However, I just didn't think it was that overpowered at the time. I think it would be in my top 20 if I were to make it top 20. Personally, I don't think it's a top 10, but it's definitely up there. If you look at it in terms of power, what you have here is you have a creature that you're able to recur, have that come back in. Another opponent loses enough life to go down to 10. And then you can either do that, or you can just flicker Magister Sphinx and constantly use that, just torture your opponents and bringing them down to 10 life, and you already have a creature with 5 power in Magister Sphinx. And if you have more of a creature based artifact deck, which is typically where Magister Sphinx is going to fit, you're most likely going to have the power to back up any sort of assault at that point. It's a good card, but it's an overpowered card. I think that ETB is a little bit hateful to the point where it gets hated on so often. Then once you play this, just be prepared. People are going to retaliate. Number 6 is Syri, Galvanic Genius. Now, she is one of the better Esper commanders, mainly going to be for artifact builds. However, she herself is not an artifact, so I think that makes it a little bit more interesting. It's not as overpowered as, say, the other card that I have here on the list. But her blue activated ability makes an artifact a creature until end of turn with base power and toughness equal to its converted mana cost, and you pay a white and a black, and that gains lifelink and death touch until end of turn. That's pretty good. It's not overpowered, it's fair and balanced. The rest of the deck may be busted as hell, but she is definitely not the reason why it is. I think she's a good, fair, decent quality commander. The artwork's amazing. She's like one of my favorite artworks and commanders. Absolutely just a beautiful card there. But I think she's a very well balanced card and commander, and definitely if you want to make more of an interesting commander deck that's not necessarily overpowered but is capable of holding its own, Syri's definitely the one that I would put up there. Number 5, Sen Triplets. Now we get into something here that Esper is known for doing very well, and that is just controlling the game and making your opponents frustrated as hell. Sen Triplets just embodies that perfectly. Each upkeep, you choose an opponent. They can't play spells. You can play cards in their hand. That is absolutely just terrifying. And yeah, granted, just not seeing as much play as they used to see. However, if you're going to go for an Esper control build, she's definitely one that I would consider. I think that there are more powerful commanders to choose from, and I think overall you could do a lot worse in terms of making a cancerous deck. And you're also dependent on what colors are your opponents playing. If they're also playing, white, blue, black, Esper colors, yeah, you're going to be able to cast their cards. And I think since they changed the ruling on cards like Chromatic Lantern, Sen Triplets definitely just doesn't see as much play because it's not too flashy, more around your basic control strategies. And some people aren't really attracted to doing anything too basic, but still good. Number 4, we have Zur the Enchanter. Now we're going up here in frequently played commander options, and Zur is definitely one of them, especially in these colors and Esper colors. There are a ton of enchantments to choose from, both devastating, both for card draw consistency, and just overwhelmingly powerful enchantments and that are CMC 3 or less. I mean, we're talking about cards like Necropotence here, Lantax, very good enchantments that you can get out here, and those aren't even the oppressive ones. I mean, there are a lot of just bullshit enchantments that you can play with this commander, and he's definitely one of the more favorited commander options among Voltron players. He's definitely one of those commanders, one of the better Voltron commanders in my opinion. Number 3, Zur the Hegemon. Quite possibly the most powerful artifact-based commander in my opinion. Comes into play, gets an artifact back from your graveyard to the battlefield. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Absolutely broken that you can do that on an artifact creature and have the triggers. There's infinite combos associated with her. If you have like a Blood Artist and you play something like Phyrexian Metamorph and you copy Shroom and you stack the triggers there, and because of the legendary rule, and so each time one of the Shrooms is coming back, bring back the other Shroom, the other Shroom's coming back, bring back the other Shroom, and so you get infinite death triggers there. And if you have something like Disciple of the Vault or Blood Artist, you're definitely going to win the game easily there, as well as even something like Altar of the Brood, like I mentioned in one of my underrated commander card videos. Definitely good options there. A ton of combos. Very easy combos, I should say. Not necessarily that there are a ton of them, but they're very easy to pull off. And I mean, just a very good commander option, even if you're not playing the most busted cards, because you get easy graveyard recursion for artifacts. Number 2, we have the most played Esper colored commander in the format, Oloro, Ageless, Ascetic. What does he do? Well, he doesn't really do anything on the field, or at least he shouldn't, unless you're absolutely desperate to cast him. He just sits in the command zone and you gain 2 life each upkeep. That's it. Esper colors, you have a guaranteed upkeep life gain trigger. That may not seem like a big deal until you realize there are some bullshit cards in this format associated with life totals, such as Serra Ascendant. Hey, you're not going to lose any life anytime soon, so why not just play busted creatures like Divinity of Pride? Maybe not so busted, but still, you're taking advantage of the format. life totals are much higher, why not play something like a Felidar Sovereign? Or a Test of Endurance, anything that allows you to win the game during your upkeep just for having a certain life total. And they also made a card in Kaladesh, Aetherflux Reservoir. You like casting spells and gaining life? Well, now you can do it and vote a player out of the game one at a time. Just hilarious. I mean, most players, they're okay with the cushion that the life gain triggers. Eventually will form a cushion, and it'll keep them in games a lot longer, help them grind games out. That's how I would typically play him. However, you can also play him as just a good-fashioned control-based commander, and having the 2 life each upkeep, that's just a bonus. It keeps you alive, because Esper colors, you don't necessarily have a ton of creatures at your disposal if you're going to be playing control anyway. So that's why he's definitely at number 2. One of the best ones also. I mean, that's just amazing. You don't have to play him. He just sits in the command zone. You gain 2 life. And that's how awesome the Commander 2013 set was, where you just had all these interactions from the command zone. And Oloro is definitely one of the more busted ones. In addition, you also had Derevi too, but I mean, he's busted. Number 1, Esper Charm. What does Esper Charm have in common with absolutely none of the other cards? You have the flexibility of putting it in multiple of these decks. I mean, you can put it in Esper Control, you can put it in 4-color Control, you can put it in any real deck using Esper colors. I mean, it's a good quality card. You have enchantment removal there. You can draw 2 cards, or you can force an opponent to discard 2 cards, so it's good card advantage. It's good hand disruption there too, so it's not too bad. I think it's definitely, out of all these cards, it's probably the more flexible and should be the most likely to see universal play. However, pretty underrated too. I think not enough people give it credit. So it's definitely one of those good control spells. Yeah, kind of funny. I don't know if you noticed this, but it's the only non-creature on this list. So it has that going for it. I just really like the card. I think it's one of the better charms. Definitely belongs on this list at number 1 in my opinion. So anyway, guys, that's going to do it for me. Hope you enjoyed this top 10 list of Esper colored cards in Commander. Definitely going to continue the series, and I may not be able to do it at a fast pace like I hope, just because it's so difficult to find good cards in the 3 colors. So stay tuned for more great content. Void Mage Gamer here, signing off. Thanks for watching.